Hey there, my name is Memo. This is my channel, Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion, which you might be able to see behind me and in front of me. It's tropical houseplants. Now, as a new YouTube content creator, it does really help if you like videos like this. Consider dropping a like down below because I'll know to create more content like this. And if you like content like this, generally, every week, about 2 to 3 times, I'll bring out videos along these kind of lines, some of my experience of some of the plants, some geeky scientific knowledge in terms of houseplants and how they grow. Do consider subscribing down below as well. And yeah, let's get into today's topic. You might be able to see a begonia that I recently was talking about on my channel. And this is the begonia exotica, the begonia bravuramosa subspecies exotica. And what I want to talk about today is begonia propagation, or how I normally would propagate a begonia. And as I've mentioned previously on the channel as well, I'm by no means an expert. One of the people that propagates, one person that does propagate quite a few begonias on her channel and generally in her collection is Rachel at Heart Shaped Leaves. If you haven't checked out Rachel and her channel Heart Shaped Leaves, I think she's also got a second one now, Heart Shaped Leaves After Dark, which is also a podcast. Check it out. By far, diehard fan here. So go and check out Rachel. She's got a couple of videos talking about how she propagates her begonias. So she's done this a lot more than I have. But I'm going to take some inspiration from her, some other videos that I've seen and some of my own research, and also what I would normally do with my begonia amphioxus, which is a begonia that I've always had really good experiences when it comes to propagating because it will grow like a weed. Now, this is one that I don't know if you remember from a previous video, I was saying that the propagation kind of ended up rotting or basically turning into soup quite quickly because I was trying something different, trying to do it in perlite, in a propagation box, with a heat mat. It cooked it. Don't do it to yourself. Now, I'll go and try with this, something that I've been doing on, as I said, my begonia amphioxus. So what you want to be doing is obviously make sure you've got some cutting implements. I've got some scissors and I've got my handy dandy rubbing alcohol. I know some people like to sterilize their instruments with flame, but I do this with rubbing alcohol. I find it's just a bit easier and it works for me, but you do you. Now, what you want to do is you want to find somewhere to cut, and I would suggest not going for a leaf that looks like it's on the way out or even trying a leaf or a stem that has dropped off the plant. That, generally speaking, won't do as well. So I've got a bit of a stem propagation that I want to try here, and I'm going to try it from this leaf here. So what I want to do is, you can see I've taken a stem cutting. There is a node there. I find with begonias sometimes it will actually start growing from the stem as well. So hopefully that is focusing. If not, let me see if that will work. And it will grow from the stem as well. So one of the first things you want to do is, you see there's quite a bit of leaf to no roots and a very small stem. What you want to be doing in this situation, in order to give the plant as much energy as possible to focus on rooting and not maintaining that massive leaf, is go in, and I would say this leaf is always going to look a bit wrong for the first bit, but take at least half of the leaf off. I know some people take off even more, and I know it's almost sacrilegious with such a beautiful leaf to do that, but your propagation will thank you for it. What I also like to do is, if there's any caterpillars that are dried up, I want to take that away because they might be there and they might cause some further rot. There is a new growth point on the side there, and I don't know whether or not you're going to be able to see it there, but I'm going to leave that on the plant and see if it will work, if it will activate. If not, it will grow from somewhere else. Now, get yourself a handy dandy little pot. And let me put this down first so we've got a bit more space so we can look around. Okay, so what you want to be using is sphagnum moss, and that's what I use for my propagations every time, just soaked in water, nothing fancy, no fertilizer, no super thrive, no liquid gold leaf, not at this stage, because I found with generally with propagations, at this point where it's just a stem and a node and it doesn't have any roots, it's not going to start using that nutrient. When you start seeing roots and when you start seeing that it's kind of taken the moisture out of the sphagnum moss, then by all means, put in with some of that water when you kind of redampen the sphagnum moss, put in some of that fertilizer. So this is something I struggled with for a long period of time because I had a lot of my propagations in the beginning when I hadn't done too many propagations in sphagnum moss, and everybody was just like, it's super easy. I'm just like, it's failed every time. How is it super easy? And nobody was particularly good at explaining what I wasn't fully understanding. Now, everybody was saying you need to wring the water out of the sphagnum moss, but what I hadn't realized is to what level. So you want to grab quite a bit of this sphagnum moss, and what you want to do, you can see it's dripping there, is take it in your hand and literally squeeze absolutely all the water out of it. You want to imagine you're squeezing a kitchen sponge, potentially, and do that until you stop seeing water coming through from the sphagnum moss. And what you might be able to see when you've got this in your hands, this is still damp, it's just not sapping. And that's what you kind of want here. You don't want it to be sapping because then it will rot out. And what you do then is you fluff up the sphagnum moss, and all you would then do is wrap the stem part of this in the sphagnum moss, making sure that it's making good contact with that stem and that node, and then pop it into your propagation container, and then there you go. That's all it is essentially at this point. So just make sure that you do all the steps that we're talking about now. At this stage, what you want to do is either use a clear Ziploc baggie and put it close to a window, not any direct light, because again, it doesn't have any roots. You don't want to burn it or cook it. But I use a propagation box, so it's a clear container box, plastic container box, which I'll kind of spray the inside so it's got a bit of humidity in there, close the lid, I've got some grow lights on top of it, done. Forget it for a few weeks and then come back and check on it and try pulling on the stem ever so slightly. And if you see a bit of resistance, it means that it's starting to root out. Just be very, very delicate, because with begonias generally, the roots are very hair-like. So they're not like some of the aroids we have with nice, chunky, solid roots. So you might end up snapping a couple of the original roots that are there. So just be very careful with it. But essentially, that is what I do to propagate my begonia. Any questions, comments, drop them down below. I'd love to have that conversation with you. And yeah, in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.